A volcano has erupted on the Spanish island of La Palma. Thousands have been forced to evacuate. I'm Neil, and this is News Review from BBC Learning English. Joining me today is Roy. Hi, Roy.
Hello, Neil, and hello, everybody. If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary around this story, all you need to do is head to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, to take a quiz. But now let's hear more about this story from this BBC News report.
A volcano has erupted on the island of La Palma in the Canaries. Thousands of people living in 4 villages were evacuated as rivers of lava poured down the hillside. The volcano last erupted 50 years ago.
So, a volcano has erupted on the Spanish island of La Palma, which is one of the Canary Islands off the coast of Africa. It is home to around 80,000 people, and at the moment, 5,000 people have been evacuated. Now, this volcano has not erupted for the last 50 years, and at the moment, fortunately, nobody has been seriously hurt, and we really hope it stays that way.
Yes, we do. Now, you've been looking around the various news websites and picked out some really useful vocabulary we can use to talk about this story and other things. What have you got?
We have spewing, streaming, and scramble.
Spewing, streaming, and scramble. Okay, let's start then with your first headline, please, Roy.
So our first headline comes from right here in the UK from the Mirror, and it reads, "Volcano erupts on Canary Islands, spewing lava into air after earthquake swarm."
Spewing, coming out in large amounts.
Yes, so this word is spelled S-P-E-W-I-N-G, and it means to expel a large amount of liquid or gas, often with force. So it's like a pressured release of liquid or gas. Now, if you think in the case of the volcano, you can imagine that lava is just forcibly coming out of the top of the volcano and going all down the sides of the volcano.
Yeah, and lots of it. That's key, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. So another way we can use it as well is to talk about smoke. Now, you can also imagine that the volcano is spewing smoke into the atmosphere, but we can also use it in terms of, for example, cars. Can you think of an example where a car was spewing smoke?
Yeah, absolutely. I was driving last night, actually. I was coming home from a friend's house. And every time we stopped at the traffic light, the car in front, when it started again, loads of exhaust spewed out of the exhaust pipe at the back. There's lots of this smoke. It was going into my car and it was very smelly. It wasn't very nice.
Oh no, it sounds horrible. And it was spewing out black smoke. So again, it's that forcible and release of liquid or gas. Now, we don't only use it for liquids and gases, do we? We have another meaning. We use it with paper. So, for example, maybe you're printing a lot of documents and your printer has a malfunction and it just spews out paper everywhere, just continuously spewing out paper. And you're trying to press the button, but you can't stop it. That's another way that we might use spewing.
Yeah, and you can imagine that maybe with a cash machine as well, where the money doesn't stop. It just comes flying out as if it's a continuous flow.
Sadly, that's never happened to me. I've always hoped that the cash machine would spew out lots of
Me
cash,
neither.
but it's never happened.
And there is another meaning, a far more not very nice meaning. It can be used particularly in British English to mean to vomit.
Absolutely. So again, it's this same idea. If we go back to the volcano with the spewing of lava, the forced expulsion of lava, we use it as well to talk about a person who is vomiting. Maybe you're not very well and you spew. And it's commonly used with the preposition up, to spew up.
Absolutely. Let's move away from that, Roy. I'm beginning to feel a little bit ill. Let's get a summary, please. Unfortunately, it seems there are lots of natural disasters going on in the world at the moment. We have a story about the California wildfires, which you might want to watch. Where can our viewers find it, Roy?
All you need to do is click the link in the description below.
Okay, let's move on now to our next headline, please.
Okay, so our next headline comes from the UK, from The Guardian, and it reads Spanish Canary Island volcano erupts, sending lava streaming towards villages.
Streaming, flowing continuously. Now, Roy, streaming, everybody knows what streaming is. When I listen to music these days, I don't put on a CD, I don't put on a record, I stream it. What's the connection between my listening habits and the use of the word here with a volcano?
Well, this is a great example. Now, when you're listening to music, do you like it to be continuous or do you like it to be interrupted? Maybe there's a problem with it. How do you prefer it?
Continuous.
Absolutely. So we use the word streaming to talk about a continuous flow of something. So in this case, we're talking about data or information across the internet. That music is streaming across the internet. It is a constant flow of that information. And another good example of this using information across the internet is to talk about video gamers. There's a lot of people who stream content on various sites on the internet showing off their playing of video games. They are streaming their content across the internet, a continuous flow of these video games.
Yeah, and a very simple way to remember this is that the name of this sort of little river, a little river is a stream, isn't it? And what happens in a river? There is a flow of water, a continuous flow.
Yes, definitely very much the origin there of that word. So the continuous flow of water down the stream, the water is streaming.
Also, we can use this word streaming to describe what happens to your nose when you have a very bad cold.
So first we had spew for vomit, and now we're talking about problems related to noses and eyes. So yeah, when you have maybe a heavy cold, quite often your nose will expel or flow with a lot of liquid. Likewise, your eyes, we sometimes say your eyes are running, but you can also say your nose is streaming when it's a constant flow of liquid thanks to a heavy cold, or your eyes are streaming. And likewise, when you're very upset, you're very emotional, you cry, and you can say tears are streaming down your face.
Absolutely, it's like sort of rivers, streams coming down your face.
Yeah, especially when you have a cold, sometimes it can be really heavy.
Or an allergic reaction.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get a summary. Okay, we've been talking about streams, liquids, water, and we have a story about water and the moon. Where can our viewers find it, Roy?
All you need to do is click the link in the description below.
Let's have a look at your next headline.
So my next headline comes from the UK, from the Daily Mail, and it reads, Volcano erupts on Spanish island La Palma as rescuers scramble to evacuate 5,000 residents.
Scramble. Move quickly in response to a dangerous situation.
Yes, so this word is spelled Scramble, and it can be used as both a verb and a noun with the same spelling, but in the headline, it is being used as a verb. Now, when we scramble, quite often it's talking about a quick response. There isn't much time to plan, and it's just a very rapid response. So in the case of the headline, the rescuers are scrambling to help people.
Yeah, there's a lot of action. It can seem disorganized. It's urgent, isn't it?
It's all about being unplanned. Time is of the essence. It's a bit of chaos, a lot of maybe loud shouting and movements, but fundamentally, these people, the rescuers, are highly trained. They know what they're doing, so they're able to cope with these unplanned situations. And likewise, when you think of a fire, if there's a fire, a house is on fire, at the fire station, the fire officers will scramble into their fire engine. They'll go down their pole. I'm not sure if they still do that, but they'll get into their vehicle. They're highly trained for these unplanned situations, but they scramble to respond to the dangerous situation.
Yeah, likewise airplanes. If there's some kind of attack or something, you hear about planes being scrambled.
Yeah, this is quite commonly used in the military. So it's a military response. They scramble their fighter jets or they scramble their fighter planes to deal with a threat that may be coming towards them.
Yeah. We also use the word scramble with there's a connection, but it's a slightly different meaning when you're climbing a hill or a mountain.
Yeah, so again, it's about this fast-paced movement. Now, uh, I'm not very good at climbing mountains or hills, so I scramble up them. My hands and my arms and my legs are going everywhere. It's a kind of chaotic and erratic movement to try and scramble up a hill. Have you scrambled up any hills recently?
Not recently, but I'm planning to this weekend. I'm going to visit the English Lake District, where there are plenty of hills to scramble up.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. And one further meaning of scramble, which you may well have heard, is connected to eggs. I love scrambled eggs. What connects this idea of scramble to the ones we've been talking about?
Okay, so when you scramble your eggs, you cook your eggs and then you take a fork or a whisk and you rapidly sort of beat these eggs without sort of a plan. It's kind of chaotic movement, very fast to mix these eggs together. So you can scramble your eggs, mixing them together. And that idea of it being fast and quite chaotic is carried over from the meaning. But this case, it's about mixing something.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's get a summary. Time now then, Roy, for a recap of our vocabulary, please.
Yes, we had spewing, coming out in large amounts. We had streaming, flowing continuously. And we had scramble, move quickly in response to a dangerous situation.
If you want to test yourself on the vocabulary, go to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, and there's a quiz you can take, and plenty of other stuff to help you improve your English. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.